Thank you for tuning in to the reverse Q&A for school board candidates. Our moderator tonight is going to be Josh. Josh is simply an acquaintance, and he is from Rochester. He does not know any of our candidates here tonight. Josh has a PhD in applied mathematics.
My name's Josh. I'm here to moderate a discussion in this novel format of a reverse Q&A. I'm going to have each one of you introduce yourself.
I'm Joel Hollerick, and I am running for one of the two-year term.
I'm Carrie Pratt. I am running for a 4-year term.
My name is Christy Shook. I'm running for the 2-year term.
Jamie Onenson, the 4-year term.
Shannon Senning in the 4-year term.
Brianne Vogt, 4-year term.
Cool. Thank you. So this is the most voted for. Okay. Now we're going to line up again, and then we're going to move. Are we ready? All right. Agree is that way. Disagree is over here. Now, students are held accountable for their behaviors and their actions. 3, 2, 1, move. So you're all agreeing with this. No. So because you guys are all here right now, I'm going to go over here and ask Christy to state your perception or your perspective and what evidence you have for it.
Oh. My perspective and what evidence I have for it.
Yes.
Okay. My perspective is that I more agree than disagree that students are held accountable for their behaviors and actions. That's my perspective.
Okay.
Well, I'm just like confirming, right?
Sure,
That's what you're looking
sure.
for me. And then my evidence is that student behaviors are a constant daily need to meet. And so I think having a view of the work that has to be done to meet our students, the needs of our students and the actions and consequences to their behaviors is an ongoing process. It's hard for me to feel like we're always batting 100% or we're always failing 100%, but the adults in our schools, I believe, I don't know how to demonstrate evidence necessarily to this thought, but the adults in our schools are working to handle and address the behaviors. I think the parents and families and community members play an important role in that. So I think it's a complex answer for me, but it's one that I see improvement from the last year.
So why are you
here?
So this is totally neutral, in which this is slightly disagree, and this is slightly agree, this is strongly agree, and this is, I think this is the absolute truth. So what brings you to this position rather than this position, or entirely neutral?
Yeah, well, our classrooms function to educate our students. And so my agreement is that students are held accountable for their behavior and actions, and our classrooms are functioning productively, and our students are learning.
Are you a teacher?
No.
Okay. I'm going to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. And I'm going to step into Joel. And Joel, can you explain to me why you're standing where you are?
Sure. So I guess my perception comes from students at the high school and middle school level, and then educators and staff from the middle school and elementary level. I have heard of Student behavior, I don't know for sure that you would call it bullying, but probably in that realm, where there has been nothing was addressed, no resolution was brought. It was just, well, kids are kids. And I know of cell phone use that I have heard from students that is like they're not supposed to have them out. Kids have them out. They get asked to put them away. They get them back out. And misuse of watching YouTube on Chromebooks or things like that. So just because students have access, they have temptation, and because they're young, they succumb to the temptation a lot. But from what I've heard, there's nothing, I shouldn't say nothing, there's very little permanent resolution to try to address that. And then there are kids who misbehave and disrupt the entire class, for whom, there's no, who perhaps need a para, or perhaps need some other support, or perhaps just need, some time down in the principal's office or something like that. I grew up with going to the principal's office or getting detention. For me, that seemed to, in my experience, that addressed behavior problems. I guess I don't know for sure if that does anymore or if that just doesn't, but I think there's a lot of kids who there are no long-term. There may be a few minutes of consequences, but no long-term consequences that actually fix it.
Okay, thank you. And you were on this strongly disagree.
Yes.
Is everybody on the strongly disagree, or, okay. Forgive me for not being able to cover everybody, but I'm going to step over to Jamie and see how he strongly disagrees and see what he has to support his claim.
Thank you. This is my number one thing, reason why I'm in this race, and it was from a group of teachers that I trust very much that have brought this up to me. Just repeatedly, their hands are tied around behaviors, and that decision for discipline has been pushed back into the classroom from the leadership of each building. And that's a cultural change in our district, and that's been down from the top, where our principals, our leadership in our building are no longer handling this. I get example after example from teachers that say that the disruptive students are not being removed from the classroom, which is limiting the education experience of the remaining kids that are in this room. And it didn't used to be like that, but that's been handed down, that we are no longer sending kids out of the classroom when there's disruptive behaviors. The accountability from handing in homework on time to being in class on time is non-existence too. I got specific examples from teachers and with my own eyes at one of the high schools in town. There's a group of kids who do not go to school. It's been brought up to a lot of people, and the principal says it's not their problem, it's our problem to decide why they don't feel welcome in school. Being present in school is one of the most easy things to do to be successful. And if we don't have a way to get our kids into the classroom, there's no way that they're ever going to learn. Another example of this, my wife and I were walking through the hallways of a school, and a kid walked up and said, "Nice effing backpack," to another kid. The principal of the school was standing right there. I thought, this is a great opportunity to reverse this sort of behavior. In my professional life, I would not allow any of my employees to speak like that in a public forum. She smiled and said, "That is a really nice backpack. Where do I get it?" So right there, that kind of behavior is justified and accepted at our school level. And there's no way that kid can walk into a professional setting with lessons taught like that. And that's the core of my beliefs on this, is we really need to change the culture away from the current trend that we're on right now to allow us to both remove disruptive behavior and expect our kids to behave and hold them accountable if they're not.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Now, Christy's over there by herself, and I'm going to ask one of you guys right here, Shannon, would you, hearing something that Christy says, would it convince you to move in the agree direction at all?
Across the yellow line? Or?
No, just even one bar closer.
It's tough for me because probably 4 months ago I would have been firmly where Jamie's at. Things have changed because we're not supposed to give a lot of information about ourselves to you. They've changed a little bit in the last few months for me, so I'm here.
Just do it.
Well, my participation on the school board, where Christy is also.
Okay.
So I've seen some things I didn't know before that you only see when you're there. So I am here, but I don't think I could ever be convinced to move further than that line. Even I'm not even sure I could move to that line. Just from what I've met with principals, I've met with parents, teachers. My kids are in high school. The things I've heard, I really do think it's somewhere on this side of the yellow line, and I don't think Christy could convince me to move too much further there at this moment in time.
Okay. How about you, Carrie?
As a teacher, this is my lived experience, right?
Yes.
I am actually maybe trending more toward Jamie at this point in time than that direction. I left the classroom because student behaviors were going unchecked. They were going unmanaged, and I was not getting the support I needed. In my classroom, I could have a student being totally disrespectful, talking back, swearing, all those things, and call for help, and nobody ever came to help me. I could have a student out in the hall assaulting another student to some extent and call for help, and nobody came to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me personally, I've walked away from the classroom because student behaviors are what I would say kind of out of control. I agree with the cell phone usage. I agree with the swearing. I agree with just how they feel they can talk back, and that's their right to do whatever they want to do. There's no respect for any authority.
Okay.
And I feel as though the upper levels of administration have not been supporting teachers to give them the authority to have that management in their classrooms. So I'm almost taking a step back here.
Okay. And Brianne, is it Brianne or? Brianne. Thank you. So I know some that goes by with the same spelling, Brianna.
Yes.
So great. So has anything Christy said like impacted you or given you a different perspective that makes you question where you are?
I do believe that things are getting incrementally better, and my experience with that would be based off of the new administration at Dakota Meadows, because we were in the Dakota Meadows school. We actually took our 8th grader out this year from Dakota Meadows and put her into private school because of the behaviors that we were seeing these last several years, among other issues. I do know that the new administration is handling the behavior issues in a better way than previous administrations, so I am hopeful that at least at that school there can be some positive change. But I wouldn't be going too far over the neutral line.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm coming back for. Is because.
Am I going to go to the dark side? No.
No. I wanted to frame this in it's like where you are,
Right.
and how does what this group of people say impact where you are, and yeah.
Awesome question.
Yeah.
I definitely, particularly with regards to what Carrie said, like, I feel and understand that and have heard that. That individual lived experience of extreme frustration, whether it's a parent or a teacher. The last, particularly, I think, 2 years, there's no surprise that this question is the first one for us to address. This is the issue of our times, one of the big ones. I think that what's happening in our schools is a mirror to what's happening in our communities. And our children are so susceptible to how adult behavior, whether it's something they're watching online, or whether it's something that they're seeing at games in the community or out in the community. I suspect it's a lot more online because we've been living more online in the last 2 years. I appreciate hearing Brianne say, I think in the last year we've had different conversations in this community about student behavior and accountability. I think holistically, I'm still comfortable on the positive, because classroom management is something we will always need to continue to address. And student behavior is something we will always learn from and maybe not be prepared for, like Jamie suggested, when you walk down a hallway and there's F-bombs going off. And yeah, hopefully we're addressing that. But getting students learning and making sure that they're in our schools is still, for me, what's important, because we can educate them when they're there. And I think that is the stride that's the most important to take. And I think overall, students are held accountable for their behaviors. I think individually there are circumstances, and those will always present themselves for opportunities to do better.
Okay. Thank you. I'm finding myself really hungry to dig in, but I'm not going to. I want to ask tangential questions and just really dig in, but we don't have a lot of time, and I want to address some of the others. Now, are you guys satisfied with how we've covered this so far? You feel it's pretty fair how we've interviewed and asked for responses from each individual and how they stand and how they came to be where they are? Is it good? Excellent. Are you guys comfortable with moving on to the next question? Yes. Awesome. Thank you. So have a seat or get back on the yellow line, whoever you choose. If you want to stay over here to disagree, that's fine with me. Automatically. Okay. This is the next one. The only remedy for past discrimination is present discrimination.
Is there an example you can reference on that?
So do you know the source of this statement? It's out of How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. So it's basically saying that disparate outcomes because of demographic are the cause of discrimination, and the only way to remedy that is by discriminating for these groups and potentially against groups that were traditionally advantaged. Is that a good reframing of that as far as everybody knows? Anybody have a different framing? The only remedy for past discrimination is present discrimination? Or the only way to help people that are disadvantaged is by disadvantaging those that are privileged at the moment?
That's a better way to say that.
I didn't say go yet, but go ahead. Simon didn't say, but no, you're fine. Go. I'm having fun with it. I'm not going to be... Okay. Wow. That's a lot of disagreement there. But I am going to start with the people. Are you, just to let me know, are you where you are, Carrie, because you can't be over here because there's not enough room?
I'm comfortable in this realm.
Right? Okay. And Christy, are you comfortable where you are? Okay, great. So I'm going to walk over to Carrie's first. Sorry, I've had so many friends with variations of your name.
I answered it.
It'll come up. They're just speaking through me. So
I get it.
Tell me why you are where you are at the moment.
I do not believe that we need to discriminate against others in order to help those who are disadvantaged get out of that situation or scenario. However, I do believe that we need to give extra to those who have been disadvantaged to get them up to the area with everybody else. So I'm not feeling, it's not really that somebody else has to be discriminated against to help those who have been discriminated against. I think we just have to put more towards what we need to do to get those who've been disadvantaged raised up while still supporting those who maybe have had advantage. We don't need to push them down. It's not one wins so the other loses. It's both need to win. So that's why I said I'm comfortable in this realm because I do know we need to give extra I just don't think that it has to be that we have to discriminate the other way.
Okay. And Christy, how are you standing where you are right now?
I'm disagreeing with that statement to the extent that I'm comfortable. I'm not. I don't think this entire experience will find me on that end or that end, because personally, I'm usually with my opinions, like recognizing that there's a conversation to have that which can inform me, help me understand differently, and probably not persuade me the other direction, but I feel like it's just a personal place that I chose to be wherever this disagreement line is versus the hardcore. I'm personally not a hardcore answer.
Okay, great. So, Jamie, what has you standing where you are?
I'm standing here not disagreeing that there's been past discrimination. I'm standing here as that we don't retaliate against current situations because of past discrimination. So I stand here not saying that neither are true, but if past discrimination all of that's is there, and that's, I think, fact. But to bring down another group of people because of something that happened out of the control of the current people, and just, in my opinion, is incorrect. And we should be focused then to learn from the past discrimination, figure out what we can do to correct that, because, I mean, there's still discrimination going on to this day, but we shouldn't retaliate against other people, and just try to bring everybody up and make everybody better.
Thank you. Now, Brianne, is there anything present in what Carrie and Christy have said that would invite you to move this direction any at all?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I agree with Carrie that if there's groups of students who have been at a disadvantage, yes, we should be providing extra services to get them caught up so that we can have better test scores or whatever that looks like. But I don't feel like, I mean, this statement, I mean, I think goes back to CRT, and to place our students into categories of being oppressors or oppressed, and just disunifies us even more. And our society is already going to do that with our kids, that we do not need to have that in our school system. They're going to get it from culture anyways, so let's just teach them the basics, what they need to know, so that when they leave high school, they're going to be ready to be successful adults.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Shannon, is there anything that even just this distance right here would make you move? And also, yes, this is really difficult because I am hearing so much. CRT is not cathode ray tube, right? It's critical race theory, just for those of us that may not be as familiar with it. So is there anything in the context that we're exploring here that would make you move even just one step?
Could you say how you simplified that the first time when you simplified it?
Okay.
Say that the way you said it again. Do you remember?
No. Okay. Basically, the only remedy for past discrimination is to discriminate against groups that are privileged now.
I can't move at all because I can't agree with that statement.
Okay.
Now, some of these other people have talked about. Some of the other people, I can't agree with that statement at all the way it's presented. Zero. So, but what I can agree with is that there are people that are starting here, and there are people starting way down here. I want to bring those people up to here, but you shouldn't be pushing down, and two wrongs don't make a right, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a way to do it without discriminating against people are starting here. You just need to bring these people up here. So that shades of what they're talking about, I agree with. But the way that statement is said, I'm firmly here. So.
Okay. So I'm going to hand it over to Joel. I'm hearing a lot of agreement actually here about between these gradients, but what I'm hearing just a little bit over here is that there absolutely needs to be room to invite those that have been struggling into a kind of effective support. Would you agree with that, Joel?
So, yes, if you have been denied an advantage that somebody else has been given, or if you have been denied an opportunity or an ability that somebody else has been given, yeah, I think it makes sense to try to help and lift anybody who might be, I don't know, to kind of use your example, anyone who's down here versus who's up here. So thinking in the practical sense, I maybe have to take a step this way, because the way that I read that as almost the core of it almost being revenge, right? And humanity throughout time has been really, the people who are taking revenge have been more than happy to take it when given the opportunity. When you flip power structures historically, bad things happen in humanity. Now, if you're talking just kids, and trying to help kids who are struggling economically, kids who are struggling socially, kids who are whatever, it's a little bit different. But so I guess just the way that I hear that question. But yes, so I think it absolutely is the right human thing to do, the loving thing to do, to help people who don't have the same opportunities. So I guess I would have to move just slightly away from that.
Cool.
But I would be reframing that statement a little bit to make it a little less get even sort of minded.
Awesome, thank you. We have, it is about 20 minutes to, and instead of drilling down into this particular statement anymore, we're going to move on. And now next is a couple of questions that don't influence me whatsoever, so I'll have a much easier time with it. So I'm going to read the statement, and you guys can be seated and gravitate towards whatever part of this agreement-disagreement spectrum that you like, when you like. Mankato Area Public Schools Administration understands the challenges teachers face in their classroom. Let's move. And as I've done before, you can stay in the middle. You can stay perfectly, it's perfectly all right to be neutral. I'm going to walk over to the outlier first and see what she has to say. And is this okay with you?
Distance is okay with me.
Okay, great. So how are you standing where you are right now in this strongly agree?
All right, I have to see the question because this is heavy. Our administration understands the challenges teachers see in their classrooms. I agree with that statement that our administration understands the challenges that our teachers see in the classroom. They meet with the teachers. They seek to understand the challenges. They engage with their administrative leaders at each site to learn from the teachers and administrators what the challenges are, and seek to meet their needs.
Okay.
I'll probably have more to say.
Thank you, Christy. Yeah, we'll definitely get back to you.
I always
and
forget
see.
that this is meant for me to try to influence them.
It's both.
Okay.
It's both.
That's my answer.
This is about this isn't about being right about an issue. For me, I'm just going to tell you where I come from, just to tell you where my bias is. For me, I enjoy this, not because I'm looking for the right answer, but because I'm trying to flesh out different perspectives on a particular issue that helps me be informed as well as everybody else.
Just one thing.
Sure.
Since you said that, one thing I forgot to say, what brought me over here, our administrative leaders have been in the classroom. They came from the classroom. They were teachers. They were professionals in the classroom that have guided them and led them to be administrative leaders in our district. And so I think that is one of the components that I weigh heavily when I came over to this part is they understand the challenges.
Okay. Thank you, Christy. Thank you for that addition. Now I'm going to walk right over here, right over to Carrie, and you strongly disagree. Can you tell me why you stand where you are?
Again, I think it's a lived experience. I think, yes, our administrators have come from the classroom, but they've also been removed from the classroom for a while, and the needs of our students and our classrooms have changed. They've changed greatly in the last 2 years. They've changed greatly in the last 10 years. And so I think there's a disconnect there about what's actually happening. And I think that there's a lot of talk about the struggles that teachers face in their classroom, but I don't think it's ever, one, I don't think that as a teacher I've ever really been asked, and two, I don't believe that anything moves to actually fix it. So if they understand it, they're not acknowledging it.
Okay. Joel, how can you tell me about where you stand?
So I have not spoken to administrators, so I don't have that direct perspective to know if they understand the challenges that the teachers face. I have worked in corporate America long enough to know that if you work for a bad manager, you are more likely to quit than because you have a bad job. And given the rate of turnover that we see, given the struggles that we have to fill teacher positions, that they're calling potential teachers in the last week right before school to say, hey, could you please come and work? Something is wrong. And so based on my lived experience, not in a classroom, but in just working and having a boss for the last 20 years, people quit bosses, they don't quit jobs. And so I think the evidence that I see is not verbal from administrators, but it is from teachers leaving and having a hard time refilling those positions. So that puts me here.
Excellent. And Shannon, what can you tell me about where you're standing at the moment?
Well, the reason I stayed on the yellow is the way the question reads. Mankato Public Schools administration understands the challenges teachers face in the classroom. I think from my experience on the board and everything, talking to principals, teachers, they understand it. The reason I probably couldn't move this way, I could only move this way, is because they understand it, but only to the point of where when I'm thinking understand it, fire alarm should be going off in their mind. We're going to do something immediately and we're going to do some action. So they understand it. I just don't feel like we're doing anything about it. And that's why I could only be convinced, and I probably should really be here, but I think we understand it. I just don't think we're doing action items to solve the problem, and that's what frustrates me.
Awesome. Jamie, why are you standing where you are at the moment?
I am standing here, and maybe a little bit over this direction from my main example of this is our Dakota Meadow situation. The teachers there have been crying for help for 4 or 5 years. And believe me, everyone that I've talked to said that it was never heard. The administration acknowledged it, that it wasn't perfect. There was a quote at one point that a member of the administration called it a dumpster fire, but no changes were made. And the teachers were crying for help there. I do know some other teachers that have left. The teacher turnover is too high. Good teachers are leaving. Carrie's an example of that. Some other good teachers I've known that have left were never reached out and had an exit interview. In my job, with my staff, if somebody leaves, I make sure that we talk to them to figure out why that decision was made. Sometimes it's just because of it's a better opportunity for them. But if there's a grievance or something that needs to be heard that's uncomfortable for me, I still want to hear it. And that's where I'm at on this. Maybe moving a little bit because there was some changes at Dakota Meadows. I think they were years too late, which has caused a lot of what we're in right now with the teacher or with the student reduction. That transition year from elementary to middle school is a big one. And whether it was real, and I know there's a statement this week that it may have just been perceived or manufactured, some of those concerns come up from years of mismanagement at Dakota Meadows. And that should have been addressed, and I don't think it was ever heard. If it was heard, no action was taken.
Okay. Now, I'm going to come back to you, Christy. And how do you, does anything anybody over there said convince you to move even just an inch in that direction? And here you go.
Listening to what they shared, my thoughts that would perhaps allow me to move in that direction are, I think, met with an understanding that our teachers are represented by a teacher union, and they have reps that speak on their behalf and meet with our administrators to share their concerns. To the teacher retention and teachers leaving the district, sad though it may be true, and we are experiencing that, I don't deny it, but we are not unique in this profession having a crisis of teachers leaving. So statistically, it's not that I find comfort in that, but it helps me expand my understanding of that question relates to Mankato Area Public Schools. Mankato Area Public Schools is not unique in the challenges that our teachers are facing. Teachers across the country are, in K-12 education, I think, challenged with things in the last couple of years that are known to all of us. So I understand where they're coming from. It doesn't persuade me to the way I perceive Mankato administration, MAPS administration, understanding the challenges of its teachers.
Okay, thank you. Can I reframe what you said a little bit and just check in with you? What I'm hearing you say is that this problem, that they're expressing right now, is experienced from schools all across the country, and the administration and the boards of school districts across the country are experiencing these kinds of issues and are doing their best to address them.
Yeah, and particularly Mankato Area Public Schools administration just in the last board meeting had a report specific to how it was adapting to meet the needs of its teachers. So this conversation is timely, and it's not just ours. Our administrators are talking about and have suggestions that were reported last Monday night on what they're going to do to make more time, to have more access to meet the needs of their teachers.
Thank you, Christy. And you want to respond to that?
I mean, I just want to be able to respond to the question as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yes. So I was at the board meeting this last Monday, and I did hear that the administration is starting to survey the teachers, and they have a few different avenues to do that. I think it may be too little too late, but I'm glad they're doing it. I have heard that some teachers feel like if they are honest on those surveys, there will be retribution for that. And so if it isn't already anonymous, there needs to be options for it to be anonymous so that these teachers feel comfortable speaking their mind and truth.
Okay. So does anybody else want to respond to this question before we move on to the next question? Okay. Social promotion is a problem at Mankato area public schools. I reframed what social promotion meant on the sheet as social promotion is the advancement of a student to the next grade regardless of performance.
Do we have any numbers about what's like a percent of when that's happening?
I don't, because I'm not from Mankato, I'm from Rochester. So I don't know the numbers from the Mankato area public schools. So I'll repeat the question. We know what social promotion is now. It's basically to advance with your class cohort, regardless of your performance. And from what I've heard from somebody that showed up earlier, and please correct me, is that this occurs until 8th grade, or can occur until 8th grade. And then it is part of Minnesota state regulations that it cannot happen after 8th grade. So social promotion is a problem at Mankato area public schools. Agree or disagree? Excellent. Thank you. Start right there? I will. No problem. No problem. I'm going to go right up to Shannon. Why are you standing where you are?
Well, I guess I don't have the numbers off the top of my head of how often percentage-wise this is happening. I mean, my experience with it would be through my kids, things they've told me, some teachers I know. I think it does happen more than I would expect it to happen, but I don't know that I can go too far either way from where I'm standing without more numbers in front of me right now. I guess that's where I would be with that question.
Go ahead, Carrie.
So, as a teacher of 8th graders, I taught algebra. Algebra is the foundation for all the math that you're going to need going forward in high school. If I have students who fail algebra, who do not show me proficiency, who cannot do algebra, they move on to 9th grade. They move on to 9th grade and they take the next class. And here's the thing. If we're just pushing them forward without any additional support or any way to help them make up that lost learning, essentially, they're not going to be successful moving forward. So putting them in a class that is well beyond what they're able to do without any intervention or support is just going to perpetuate the problem. So by the time they get to 8th grade, if they don't have the skills they need to do algebra, they're going to probably be a behavior issue in my class because they're already out of their realm. They already are overwhelmed with what's going on. So I do know that it's harmful for students to be held back. Like, that's not necessarily the answer either. But I do believe that we need to have interventions in place, other supports for those students so that they are able to be successful as we move them forward. Otherwise, we're sending them to high school and saying, good luck.
Okay. Does anybody else on this line want to address this?
I don't know the numbers of overall at the grade, at the entire year level and moving them on, but I do see examples of my own kids of the lack of accountability for turning homework in on time, the lack of just of being asked to do your part of being a normal student. And that's a difference to me that I've seen over the last couple of years. I don't know where it comes from, I don't know where it stems from, but there's no due dates. If tests are missed, they can be remade, they can be retaken. To me, it's a lack of accountability to our children, and it's not fair to our children that they're being taught these lessons. And so it plays into a bit of this social promotion, not as a whole, we're just moving on from year to year, but from week to week. And without the foundation, as Carrie mentioned, if you're not actually learning it or being forced to or being asked to learn it, you're going to have trouble for the rest of your career.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Is there anybody here that would like to address it? I'm going to...
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful, Brianna. Thank you.
Okay, so I've heard from an elementary school-age teacher that this is a problem, that she's getting students in her classroom who don't know how to do what they were supposed to learn the previous year. And so that just makes her job that much harder. And that takes away her time from actually teaching what she's supposed to be teaching at her grade level, or just away from students that have mastered the previous year. So it is a problem, and I don't know what the solution is. I like what Carrie said. If they sit in that realm of not being proficient in something, then we need to intervene with summer school, things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's about 3 minutes to 4, but I would love to get your perspective, Christy. And this issue about, it's like I'm hearing a lot of please return to question 1 that we put up. And how do you respond to what you've heard over here? And they're on like slightly agree, and you're at like strongly disagree. So how do you come to where you are? And does anything that they've mentioned invite you to move even an inch in that direction?
Sure, thank you. I'm incredibly literal. So that question, social promotion is a problem at Mankato Area Public Schools. As a school board member, that's not a conversation that has been brought to the board. Social promotion being a problem, right? So that question, first of all, my answer was simply I disagree, because as a board member, my responsibility is to have some breadth and depth of the problems that are going on now. I don't disagree with a thing that Carrie said. So, sure, like that's a conversation I'll engage in and be informed by to understand where she's coming from, right? Or where this conversation needs to be and where it needs to happen. But I understand the interventions that we have in place, the student support services that we have for our students, the unique ways that our teachers and staff strive to meet the needs of their students so that they don't go on and become the 9th grade burden of the math teacher alone and independent, right? And so I guess I strongly disagree that we're at the point that it's a problem for Mankato Area Public Schools, because I think it's what we strive to constantly do is meet the needs of our students so that we're not pushing them off. And that's been my experience as a board member is, sure, there are unique circumstances that need more support and they need more interventions. And like you heard Brianne say, so we have summer school, and so we have IEPs, and so we have different services. Mankato Area Public Schools is an attraction regionally for those supports and for the special education opportunities that we have to meet the needs of our students.
So what I'm hearing you say is that certain efforts are definitely made, regardless of the advancement of these elementary school students, to be able to address their deficiencies during some special programming and like summer programming, such that they can be realistically more confident in their next grade level.
Yeah, and is it perfect? No, but I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I would say it's the system that we have and that we work within.
Okay. Does anybody here, would anybody in what overtime we have, would anybody like to respond to that and tell me how, does anything Christy says convince you to move even just an inch in this direction?
No, but I'll talk. I think the fact that the conversation hasn't been brought to the board level is concerning, because as we've watched our test scores go down, that is a direct reflection of the social promotion problem that we have. The fact that our kids are not learning their grade level standards, and they're being moved to the next grade level. And then teachers are being pulled, yes, we want to do what's best for every student, and we bend over backwards trying to make sure that every student gets what they need. But every student deserves to learn something new every day. That means our kids who are on grade level deserve to learn something new, as well as those who are behind and trying to get caught up. So if a teacher is spending all of their time trying to get those kids caught up, we are leaving behind those kids at grade level. And so I just strongly feel like as we watch the trend of our test scores and we watch people leaving our district, I think it's all related. And I know that it's good social emotional to move those kids on with their classes. I get that. But right now, our intervention teachers are subbing in classrooms. Our intervention teachers aren't working with kids in intervention right now because we are so short-staffed. We didn't have the paraprofessional support we needed to support those students to help them move forward. And so until we address that, we're going to continue to have this issue.
Go ahead, Joel, if you'd like.
Yeah, just thank you. I thought that was a great point and is going to move me a little bit. As I think of reading intervention specialists and math intervention specialists, so I would love to learn more on the merits of social promotion and that idea. I had classmates when I was a kid who got held back, as we called it back then, or repeated a grade because they were struggling. I don't know long-term how that impacts their self-esteem, their life path, whatever. But I guess to define it as a problem, when you point out that we're having our intervention helpers sub, and right? So yes, I would say doing that if we are not providing the resources to help the kids who are being promoted without meeting the standard or whatever, however that's defined. Yes, that seems like a problem then, because if you don't give them those supports, it's not. In my mind, that would compound the problem and create even more long-term issues. As somebody who has hired people and trained people, or had people go through orientation and then worked under me, the people who didn't get all the content out of the orientation that they needed to do the job well, I had to, or my assistant manager, whatever, people had to provide support, and I have brought those people up, or teammates have. I've also had where, as I think, what does school do in the grand scheme of things, getting kids ready for real life and the workforce and things? There won't be social promotion in the workforce. You won't keep your job just because everyone needs a job to pay their bills. So I think there's a detriment then to that concept of just moving people along that tells them, if you aren't mastering it, it'll be okay, and everything will just work out. No, there'll be some hard work that's required. And to your point too, it takes away from the star performers who you could maybe even, push up and, move even higher, even faster if those intervention specialists aren't there. So that to me, I guess, yes, makes me move a little bit more forward, remembering that the interventions and the supports aren't sufficient, in my opinion, to help make that work.
Okay. Does anybody on this side have anything else they want to say on this issue, or express how they may be moving, either to more strongly agree or more strongly disagree?
Now, I question, and I'm not trying to pick on you, Christy, on this at all, but this is kind of what I think some of our issue is right now with our current board. Like you said, it's very literal, like to this. I don't walk around talking about social promotion, and I don't hear other people doing that. But I think this ties into a lot of the other issues, and there's a real anger in this town about how this district, and I think you would have to admit that. And so as long as somebody just doesn't bring up social promotion, we don't have to worry about it. I think this is tied into everything from test scores to accountability to behaviors. So just a little questioning on why I do feel like there's an anger in town, and some of the citizens really feel like our board at times buries our head in the sand and doesn't try to figure out what is really going on at the core of the issues. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to say anything? Okay.
I gathered that coming over here was exactly, I was anticipating that perception. So I appreciate the dialogue. I like honestly, sincerely do. I still, it doesn't persuade me differently. I still feel confident in the work of our district as it relates to this question being a problem. Does it triangulate into other issues? Absolutely. Again, admittedly, literally, that question, social promotion, I don't believe is the problem. Do I hear about test scores? Do I understand student achievement and how it's been impacted? Absolutely. We look at that, and I feel confident in the way that our district is leaning into meeting the needs and having this problem or perceived problem addressed. I think individually there will always be needs that are not met. When you have 8,500 students in a district that you serve, just like this, there will be students on the spectrum, and we will always, as a district, and I believe confidently that we do seek to meet their needs. Our interventionists, last year, we had a substitution problem. We were pulling everybody we could to help our teachers in the classrooms. That's not the case this year. Our interventionists are doing what they need to do. And can they do better? Do we need subs? Do we need paras? Absolutely. I feel that we're confronting those issues, not burying our heads in the sands. I just wanted to speak to that. But that doesn't mean that you're going to see results this week. And as a parent and as adults in this community, the patience to persevere is thin. And admittedly so. I, as a parent, when my child's needs aren't met, it's frustrating. But at the same time, it doesn't change me yet.
Okay. Thank you. I think I'm going to close this portion of our discussion. And I'd like to thank all of the candidates for being up here. Even though this is like, on each issue, this is like one dimension to agree or disagree, what we're doing is we're exploring different facets of these incredibly complex issues in our very rapidly changing culture and time. And I really appreciate being able to get to know each of these candidates just a little bit through this. And I respect every single one of you for engaging in this conversation in just the way you have. Thank you very much.